Did you guys hear Attorney General Pam Bondi? Now, look, Pam Bondi is not that beloved amongst the MAGA base right now, and I don't think she's really loved amongst the American left or the Democrats in the country either. This has to do with a few reasons, but the big one in recent days that people would mention has to be the Jeffrey Epstein case. For her to say that the list was on her desk, and then what list? There's a list? Well, I don't know what you're referring to. Go from we're going to release the files to never mind. We have Pam Bondi going out there. There's these binders being put out. It's a huge media spectacle. It has nothing of import in it. All information that's already out there. So her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein situation, her Kash Patel's handling was atrocious, and it got the administration in deep water and made it so that the mainstream media, for the first time in a long time, was talking in detail with speculation and digging in the Epstein case and making it like a major headline that went through the entire circuit. And that meant Trump getting asked questions about Epstein that seemed to make him uncomfortable. And the more uncomfortable Trump became, the more eager the media became to ask him questions about it. So that was pretty poor job on Pam Bondi's part. Now, in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting, Pam Bondi is trying to get onto podcasts like the Katie Miller podcast, this one right here, or other shows, trying to get ahead of the narrative, trying to speak about what the administration's doing, trying to show them as cracking down on crime. They're cracking down on partisanship in the DOJ, XYZ. And she starts talking about hate speech. In the fallout of the Charlie Kirk assassination, there have been a lot of instances where somebody working for either some private business or in some cases the armed forces says something about Charlie Kirk that isn't nice. Sometimes it's something along the lines of celebration for what occurred, and that type of stuff has gotten people fired. There's been something along the lines of calling for more that have gotten people fired, which, that makes sense. You're calling for violence. Yeah, you're probably not going to want to be the greeter at Home Depot. This doesn't sound like a sociable job for an individual like you. But Pam Bondi reacted to this Charlie Kirk shooting, where these people have been going after people's jobs, sometimes for just criticizing Charlie Kirk, by the way, which seems ridiculous enough. She responded to the specter around Charlie Kirk and his death and all of the vitriol that's come from it by saying that hate speech is not free speech. What country am I living in? What political spectrum is this? What did I hear? What? I'm sorry for being so baffled off the bat, but after the last decade of internet politics and free speech, Gamergate, we got freedom of of video game journalism, and we get canceled and don't go after people's jobs. To go from that to hate speech isn't free speech from the Republican Attorney General, from the President of the United States, who can his free speech is by definition hate speech when he talks about people. He talks about people he hates on an individual level all the time. He talks about groups as like predatory or like they're transgender for everybody. What is that saying? Is that trans people want to be trans, or is that saying transgender is going to make you trans? Transgender is going to make them trans. The Democrats are evil. The Democrats are fascists. Don't let him take his coat. Get him out of here. Go after the women and children. There's a bunch of things that Trump has said that I would say is based in hate, but it's still free speech. If Trump wants to say, I think we should ban Muslims from entering the United States as an American under First Amendment rights, he has that right. If somebody wanted to come out and criticize any religion, Christianity to Islam, if somebody wanted to make an image of the Prophet Muhammad, if somebody wanted to come out and curse the founding fathers to the current president of the United States, to any foreign leader, to any domestic political figure, if they wanted to go outside the White House and yell profanities at the president of the United States, you could for a little bit. At a certain point, it would probably become disturbing the peace. But on principle, you can do that which is something that I think is great about this country. Not that I got to hear people be hateful, but the fact that the government knows where their power starts and ends when it comes to people's freedom of expression. Trump might not necessarily, he hasn't been a particularly strong free speech president. Honestly, this should not surprise me as much as it does. Maybe it's the framing, maybe it's the rhetoric, maybe after so much time spent in online political culture, hearing, about the need for freedom of expression and hearing right-wing figures over and over say hate speech is free speech, which ultimately I'd be like, begrudgingly, yeah, it's true. I don't like what so-and-so has to say, but hate speech is free speech. Hate speech is free speech. And then in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassinations, and people say some things that are hateful, that are covered by the First Amendment, but all of a sudden, no, they aren't. That was the president's friend. That was the president's friend. Listen to what Pam Bondi has to say here. Listen to her justification here, or her attempted justification.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
This is the same government that had J.D. Vance waddle over to Europe and his smarmy suggestions to the Europeans about freedom of expression. They felt very self-assured about that they had the right, they had the moral superiority to lecture Europe when it came to freedom of expression. The Trump administration would then go on to, well, they're actually trying to ban the American flag burning right now. They have gone out and said that if you're not an American citizen, you don't get free speech. You don't have the First Amendment here. If you're a student, if you come here as a foreign student to America thinking, wow, I came here because I want to learn about America. I want to learn what this culture is. I want to learn what America's all about. You guys think, you think people have certain inalienable rights? Oh, not me. You, not me. Okay. So my classmate can say what they want about President Trump, but I can't. For risk of being deported. Now, they haven't extended that power to just critiquing of Donald Trump, XYZ. There's been some accusations during tourists trying to visit the United States being deported at the border or being deported at the airport. But there hasn't been anything beyond the President of the United States going after those who are too critical of Israel as foreign students. But if the method allows for that, then there's nothing to say that it wouldn't also extend into really any political commentary, whether it's based in the war between Israel and Palestine and the fighting there, or if it has to do with domestic political issues. So the Trump administration, its record on, provocative protests, its record on when it comes to the lawsuits of all these major media organizations for the coverage that he doesn't like, him threatening the broadcast license, his lawsuits before he entered the White House, like against Bill Maher and others for jokes he didn't like, his attempts to go after broadcaster, no, not even go after broadcasters, go after everyone with the idea of widening the slander laws, the libel laws, making it easier to sue people for their words against you. So, this is not somebody who is particularly principled on the First Amendment. So this should not surprise me. It does, though. Why does it still surprise me, considering how bad the president's record on this has been? I guess it just surprised me just due to, it just feels like an aesthetic self-dunk. To be part of a movement that for so long said, you might not like it, but facts don't care about your feelings. I'm sorry, this is a hate fact. I'm sorry that this is so, hard for you to accept. But, again, facts don't care about your feelings. I'm going to say what I'm going to say because this is America, freedom of speech. Sorry that you're triggered. And it took one instance of political violence to get Trump's attorney general to say, if you engage in hate speech, we will come after you. They have no moral high ground to lecture any European leader. They have no moral high ground to lecture anybody domestically. This is an administration that, I would even say in comparison to previous administrations, cares quite little about the First Amendment. There has been no principled stand on it since he's gotten into the White House. I haven't seen it. It's only been instances where he's either trying to narrow what is protected by the First Amendment or widen what people can be sued over. Just like he sued Paramount, and he got that settlement. Speaking of that, actually, I think we do have something pulled up here addressing that specifically.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
Should probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well,
it's not that he doesn't care little about the First Amendment. It's that he doesn't care at all about the First Amendment. Listen to the way, I mean, you should have seen how he was talking to the Australian press before. He was talking to this Australian reporter who, oh my God, I'm sorry to pivot again away from this again because there's just so many clips like this, but he was talking to this Australian reporter who was trying to get an answer on a pretty basic question. And he then asked the reporter, wait, are you from Australia? You should be nicer to me, because if you were nicer to me, then we wouldn't have problems between our countries. As if he was basically saying that this reporter's question that was too aggressive risks a diplomatic incident with the Australians. Sorry, this is the 25% a reporter was mean to me tariff.
That is an appropriate President Trump that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity.
well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners
Well,
program.
the Australian.
I'm not involved in any business activities. Anyway, Trump trading cards, crypto right now, Trump sneakers, Trump perfume, Trump teddy bear, Trump Y, Trump Z, Trump X. It doesn't, Trump whatever. He would put Trump, he'll put his name on anything and he'll sell it. I mean, everybody who cares about political corruption and follows it knows the unprecedented scale of the crypto scandal when it comes to the how these people are funneling money into these cryptocurrencies that just direct those funds straight into their families' pockets. At the same time that he's president of the United States. There's also questions about how the Saudis have rewarded his businesses, like his hotels in New York during the first administration, let alone the second administration, where it seems to just be all no holds barred. There's not going to be a second term. You don't need to worry about that. You know, we have loyalists in position who are going to yes man him 10 ways from Sunday. My goodness. Anyway, back to this. But such a basic, do you think you should be involved in so many business dealings as president? It's not that provocative of a question, really.
Kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia right. In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone.
Well,
go ahead, John.
When the UAE does a deal like
you
that,
can set a nicer
when the UAE does a deal, what does it want in return?
Quiet.
Mr. President, what are you hearing about the operation?
Your president's going to hear about you? You asked me why I'm involved in so many business dealings. How about you can't ask that? It would have been a simpler way to state it than saying, like, I'll put your country's, like, future on the line of our strategic allies based upon this journalist hurting my feelings. Wait, back to the original clip that got me off that Australian pivot.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech?
And it's low as all hell. There we go.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
Should probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe
that be
they'll come after
appropriate?
ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company.
ABC gave Trump money, $16 million, in a settlement outside of court in a case that they could have won. Some people suspect this is due to the fact that Paramount Plus, the parent company of CBS, wants to do a merger with a company called ByteDance, which, due to its size, has to be approved by the Trump administration. There are other motivating factors here. And the thing that he's talking about, what's based in the $60 million lawsuit, was, hey, I don't like that Harris's question here. I don't like how it was edited. It was an interview Harris did where they don't like that they edited out like some dead air in the speech, the statements that she made. That's what he says was worth $16 million in what he called election manipulation. It was a deliberate like intimidation tactic, open intimidation tactic. And now it's hate speech to edit Kamala Harris's questions. I remember we had that debate with Jeb Tan recently. And I remember Jeb Tan having this back and forth with me. Look, I'm not a huge fan of Trump either, but there's certain rights that I know he'll like he's less likely, I think, to go after. Democrats want to do the assault weapons ban. I care about the Second Amendment. Within 48 hours of us having that conversation, we saw reports coming out of the Trump administration looking at removing the gun rights of transgender Americans, which could open a huge, huge, huge slippery slope. That, I mean, why would it stop with transgender Americans, especially since they haven't been able to prove a correlation between being trans and some sort of violent tendency caused by, being trans. And I wonder if he was to hear this and that, if I was, the Trump administration's going to go after people for hateful language. If you're hateful, if you edit Harris's questions the wrong way, maybe they'll come after you. This is the free speech president. This is, he tells you as it is president. You just can't tell him how it is. He'll tell you how it is for him or how he sees it. You just can't tell him how it is. If you tell him how it is, or you try to tell the public how it is, you could either get a lawsuit or an investigation by the DOJ. Welcome to Trump's First Amendment. I hope we don't have to stay a while.
He paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech, so maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair, and the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country, but we're fixing it. We have right now the hottest country anywhere in the world, and remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead, and now Washington, D.C. is fixed, and I fixed it. The mayor was fine. The mayor was...
You hear that? Washington, D.C. is fixed. I will be happy to come back in 2 months and go take midnight walks past the Anacostia River, flashing my water cash. Let's see how long that goes. It is fixed DC with no crime and no problems. Just like 0% and all illegal immigrants, 0% crossing, 0. We have decreased crossings below 100%.
Just fine, okay? The mayor had the sick city for many years. He's been mayor for many years. The one that fixed it was me and my people, and it is so safe. You should take your beautiful wife tonight and have dinner down there. You won't be shot. You won't be accosted. You won't even be looked at incorrectly by anybody. Washington, D.C. is safe. Now we're going to Memphis, where it's pretty rough, to put it mildly. And then we're going to have to go. A friend of mine who is...
To go from, we are the edgelords of the internet, we make the edgy posts out there, we're the ones triggering the libs, you might not like what we have to say, but we have the right to say it too. Did you ask that question? Isn't that question hate speech? Maybe we'll come after you. Why did you edit Harris's answer that way? That's hate speech too. This news organization made me upset. Is that hate speech? That can't be allowed. That can't be allowed. Trump sounds like the stereotype of what you would imagine the limp rich the limp wrist LA professor would react to like, it almost feels, I don't know if you guys ever see God's Not Dead. There's these types of movies where it feels like somebody's like imagined a debate in the shower where they're debating a shampoo bottle and they're giving themselves like dunks, you know? You know what I'm talking about? The, God's Not Dead type of debates. Like, well, if Santa Claus really isn't real, where'd all the presents come from? And then the other guy's like, duh. Ah, my God, I had no idea. Oh my goodness. Checkmate, liberal. Those movies suck so bad. Yeah, no, it's not great. But that's what I imagined how they thought it would go when they got in there, that they would have the platform, they'd get the microphone and they go, God's not dead, he's truly alive. And all the people would be like, I'm MAGA now. And then they got in there. Everybody still thought Trump was stupid. And then it's, never mind. Hate speech is, we always hated hate speech around here in MAGA land. Hate speech has always been terrible. It should have always been banned. You got to go after hate speech. Thankfully, even though, of course, I would barely ever never give Matt Walsh any credit. But I don't know if you guys saw what Matt Walsh had to say about Pam Bondi. Listen to this.
It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that.
So we've gone from don't advocate for more violence or celebrate Charlie Kirk's demise to you as a small business owner have to print Charlie Kirk posters for his vigils and celebration and turning into some sort of martyr figure who, as Mike Johnson said, was the greatest contributor into the free marketplace of ideas in over 100 years. My God. Christopher Hitchens, fool before the mega mind of Charlie Kirk. My God. Every single political figure. Slavoj Zizek, oh my gosh. A brainlet child in comparison to the might that was the brain of Charlie Kirk. This is ridiculous. This is the type of stuff I've heard conservatives be making the argument for years. No, they don't got to bake the gay cake. I remember that. Look, gay people don't have to be serviced at every business. That these businesses can make the decision based on their religious affiliation not to service these people. They don't have to make their gay wedding cake, and the gay people have to go somewhere else to get their gay wedding cake. Probably not an issue for most gay people. It would probably be a more significant issue if we're talking something like, maybe healthcare services. If somebody was hurt and they were gay and they couldn't be, there are situations where I don't think there should ever be an allowance to deny people. Definitely when it comes to life-saving care and stuff like that. But when it comes to small businesses, the conservative argument was always free marketplace. It's a free marketplace. You're a business owner. In fact, the argument that Charlie Kirk himself made was that we should overturn the Civil Rights Act. That we should overturn the Civil Rights Act, not because Charlie Kirk, at least this is what he says, particularly, wants to stick at the black people, but because he believes in the free marketplace. He believes that businesses should be allowed to decide who they and who they don't associate with. You know who else believes this? Ben Shapiro. Those are two very big mainstream conservative figures who have an interest in overturning the Civil Rights Act, both because they believe businesses should be allowed to deny black people service if they so choose. But if that's what you believe, it also flips the other way. Mind you, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about people being refused on the basis of race or some immutable characteristic. We're talking about a business being forced to print posters and material for somebody who has political positions that they might not subscribe to, or could be advocating for a cause that they do not subscribe to. Are we really going to say that that black pilots and trans business owners have to, by law, print Charlie Kirk posters? It's ridiculous. It doesn't hold up to the test of time. It doesn't hold up to their own standards. And I'm not the only one pointing this out. Like I said, Matt Walsh responded to Pam Bondi on this saying, get rid of her. Not, you're wrong. Get rid of her today. This is insane. Conservatives have fought for decades for the right to refuse service to anyone. We won that fight. Now Pam Bondi wants to roll it all back for no reason. The employee who didn't print the flyer was already fired by his employer. The stuff is being handled successfully through free speech and free markets. This is totally gratuitous and pointless. We need the AG focused on bringing down the left-wing terror cells. Mind you, so far, when it comes to this shooter, like, it seems to have been a lone wolf. Like, we don't have any evidence yet that they were related to some cell. I don't think the administration has put forward any evidence of any terror cell, left-wing, leftist terror cell, period. Most instances of left-wing violence are either rioting of some amount, scuffling with cops, or some lone wolf attacks. When it comes to like a whole terror cell, I mean, the last thing I can think of is the Weather Underground, which was in the 70s, which, if you want to compare the scale of political bombings to the 70s to now, to make yourself, to ground yourself on how bad it could get, I would suggest it. We need an AG focused on bringing down the left-wing terror cells, not prosecuting Office Depot, for God's sake. Somebody responded to him saying, so you're saying the AG should just ignore violations of the law because free markets will fix everything? That's not how equal protection works. Either laws apply consistently or they mean nothing. Hate speech laws don't exist. There aren't any laws against refusing to print a flyer for a memorial service. So yes, I want the AG to ignore laws that don't exist. When Matt Walsh has to reel you in, you've lost the plot.